Hockeytown, it's a place where dreams are found. We fought so many battles here, now we're the ones that they will fear. The cup resides within our town, we won't stop no letting down. The cup is ours, we're all to drink. It's our time, let's rock this ring.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with us, your beautiful hosts. Once again, take two, Matt and Zach. This is our second take because I forgot to change the background. But Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Can we just get it going with it? It's been a morning.
This is Matt. Matt's had a rough morning with technology today. I think he's on his fourth device trying to get going on this. So let's go ahead and take it underway, buddy. And what do we got today? Well, actually, a decent amount of league news for once. A decent amount of Red Wings news. And then obviously our main topic, where are they now? Former Red Wings edition. So we'll be touching base on some of the former Detroit Red Wings players that were under kind of like the Ken Holland regime. Maybe they played with Steve Yzerplan when he first came in as the general manager. But yeah, we'll be talking in depth about some of those players, where they are now and where they could possibly be on the Detroit Red Wings roster if they were with the Detroit Red Wings right now. So Matt, let's go ahead and jump into it with some game notes that Derek left for us, because there is absolutely nothing till September. It sucks, dude. It's been a really It's been a rough offseason, and I think mainly because we don't have information on the Seider and Raymond contracts. But has it been boring for you at all? It has for me.
I don't know. I mean, not really, because I think just given how long the finals went on, like, you remember they literally ended in the end of June. So and then everything was kind of condensed together. So I guess it's kind of nice to have this quiet time, because it was so hectic at the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs that it's nice to unwind. And, you know, about like the Seider and Raymond deals, like I really don't think it's going to happen until like the end of this month, to be completely honest with you. I know there's other players that have been getting deals done. You know, Nate has just signed a deal. Brock Faber, some other people that don't come to mind right now, but
we'll talk about them too.
I've got to imagine that the two, Seider and Raymond, the two of them, and also Steve Yzerplan, he's probably just saying like, look, guys, go enjoy your summer. They're probably back home with their families in Europe. They don't really want to talk about this contract anymore than Yzerplan does. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, to be honest.
We'll just have to wait and see, right? Yeah, there's definitely some speculation out there. You know, could they be waiting until training camp? Hopefully not. We'll wait and see. But let's go ahead and jump into the Red Wings news. Matt, I kind of wish Carlo was here, because Carlo would be all over this one. But you're a good second for this one, I believe. So The Athletic and its writers did a vote for coaches on the hot seat, right? And who could potentially be one of the first ones to be fired. And the Detroit Red Wings head coach Derek Lalonde was at the top of that list as the number one potential head coach to be fired this season with a 31.3% vote rate. Do you agree with this? What do you have to really say about this?
Now, I definitely know what Carlo would say about this, so I'm gonna be more in the middle, because we know where he would take this. I guess by process of elimination, like, you can kind of look at like the longest tenured coaches in the NHL, and Derek Lalonde, even only being here for, what's he been here? This will be his third year now. So 2 years. He's already one of the more longer tenured coaches in the NHL, which is kind of insane to even think about. But I think given the fact that the team, ever since he took over, even though we would have really liked playoffs this year, you have to kind of look at it and see that the team has been improving steadily since he took over. I mean, we were literally a point away from the playoffs. So I don't know if he should be on the hot seat going into the season. Like, I don't think the puck should drop on game one. He's on the hot seat. I think it's really going to depend on how the team starts. Like, if they are like through their first 15 to 20 games and they have whatever, like 5 wins total, then yeah, you probably should get rid of him and bring someone else in, because I think on paper, this team really should be battling for really even just a wild card spot. I don't think they're ready for a divisional seed yet, but I guess we'll see how the season plays out. But yeah, I don't really think he should be on the hot seat at the beginning of the season. I think if they miss the playoffs again this year, then we can start having the conversation that is he on the hot seat or not. I think it'll all depend on how much they miss by, if they do miss. Like, if they miss by like 10, 15 points, that's obviously not ideal. That's a huge step back. So I think it's really going to depend on how the season shakes out. I would not put him on now, but talk to me the same time next year, and I'll probably have a different opinion.
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points there. Yeah, I don't think at the start of the season, a little bit of a hot seat, if that's really what you want to call it. I think I think he's on a tight watch a little bit, if that's even the right words that you even want to use for that too. Mm-hmm. He's just under a watch right now. You got Patrick Kane to come back. You're going to have a full season of him. You have Alex DeBrincat coming back for his second season, but a lot of these players are coming back, being under Derek Lalonde again. So the system should be a lot easier for them to understand and perform out there on the ice. Can Dylan Larkin be over a point per game player? Can Lucas Raymond take another step? Can Moritz Seider be a little bit better? And how good can Simon Edvinsson be? There's a lot of factors that go into it. Now, if everyone is healthy, and this is for me, this is my thought process on it. If everyone is healthy and you're kind of like in a St. Louis Blues situation where you're close to dead last or you're dead last in December, yeah, I think you got to make a change there,
Mm-hmm.
However, you're exactly right when you say this team should be competing in a playoff spot. If they are out of it in a similar style as they were this past season, do you believe Lalonde should be canned as the head coach for the Detroit Red Wings if they miss it by a dumb tiebreaker? Even if they get more points, let's say the last year was 91, they get 95 or 96 this year. Would that be the case for head coach Derek Lalonde?
Well, I guess when you strip everything away and you just look at it for point total, like that's still a 4-point increase. So I don't really know if you can fire a guy after having a better season than the season before. But I kind of like it to
1 second. And I'm sorry to do this to you. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate like a lot of fans seem to do, especially online, and that their counter argument would be, well, they still missed the playoffs and that was the primary objective. So what would you say to that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but if you're talking about a situation where they score 95 points, which is better than what they did last year, and they still lose on a tiebreaker, I don't really know if you can say that like the team or the coaching is to blame for that. I think it's just the circumstances of the teams around you. Like we see every single year, there's good teams that miss the playoffs, like the Golden Knights missed the playoffs the year before they won the cup. So that's kind of just the way I look at it, that when it gets into those games of March and April, and really even throughout the whole season, this league is so damn competitive, especially the East and the division that we're in. It is so damn competitive. I expect like March and April, all those games to be like a knife fight. Like seriously, like it's going to be like a bloody boxing match. Like it's going to be a tough battle to get in. We remember how tough it was this year. It was just everyone kind of stumbling over each other to get that last spot, and Washington finally got it. So yeah, I think that's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, at one point you look at a team like the Pittsburgh Penguins too. They were, I think it was like 12 points back or something ridiculous, and they made a run towards the end too. Adding someone like Michael Bunting actually made them a little bit better, which was super surprising. But yeah, it's going to be a knife fight. It's going to come down to the wire once again, I believe. But going back to the post question or the topic that we were talking about, Derek Lalonde, could he be the number one person to be fired or the first person to be fired as a head coach this season? I'm going to say no. I don't think he's going to be the first head coach fired this year. Do I think there's a hot seat? Yeah, if that's what you want to call it, I think there is. I think he's got binoculars on him and he's going to be watched very closely. But there's a lot of different components that go into this, right? Like injuries, how badly are they getting blown out? Are they trying to come back in games that they're down? So a lot of things go into it, but we'll wait and see. A lot of things can happen. Let us know what you think down in the comments. And while we're at it, Matt, we didn't do this in the intro. Thanks for stopping by. If you are returning, if you are new, thanks for joining us on this brand new episode. Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are on a quest to get to 500. I think currently right now we're just one subscriber away. But once we do hit 500, we will be giving away to 3 lucky winners a Hockeytown rundown hat. I am sporting the trucker cap. It is a snapback. We do have a flat brim one as well. So you will be able to select which one you want if you are a winner. They do come in black or gray. We also have other merch. We have t-shirts, long sleeves, stickers, sweatshirts, tank tops, all that jazz. So you can go find that all on our link tree, which is on our Twitter, basically on all of our socials. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. We definitely appreciate it. If you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button. Give this a thumbs up. Give it a like. If you're on Apple Podcasts, same thing. Give it a follow and give us a like. Yes, we are on Apple Podcasts now, if you are not aware of that. So go ahead and check us out on there. Matt, that was a lot. I'm sorry for taking that time to say that, but good news is that Bally and Comcast reached an agreement. However, you have to have the ultimate tier package, Matt. I don't know how much that's going to cost. I'm assuming it's probably like $300 a month. Based on what my dad always tells me, he has a love-hate relationship with Xfinity and Comcast. So good news, bad news for the fans and people who have Xfinity.
I don't know. I'm kind of just sick and tired of Bally, honestly. You know, you and I have ways to get around this, and I'm not going to say on the episode. So, yeah.
Yeah, for, the people who don't pay for cable, there are ways to watch Detroit Red Wings. But for those who don't, this is a good opportunity if you don't want to pay for Bally Sports Plus, which we know that our other host, Derek, tends to do. But he also has ESPN Plus too. I think he's able to watch the Red Wings games somehow, some way he can, even though he lives in the network. I don't know. But overall, I think this is great for the fans. I think not only Bally, but also Comcast realized that, like, hey, we have a lot of people that utilize your service. Let's get this done. Let's get the people what they want, because people want to watch hockey and basketball. No offense to the Tigers, but they're still under 500. So it's taking them quite some time. They seem like an exciting team. But
they did win last night on Leland retirement night, so that's cool.
And shout out to him. Thank you for bringing that up, because that was a note I did want to bring or write down and I didn't. But yeah, he was a legend for the Detroit Tigers for a really long time. Didn't win a World Series for us, but he took us to, it was 1 or 2, right?
Absolutely,
Matt?
should have won a World Series for us. Absolutely. Yeah.
Without a doubt. But no, I think that's great. That's awesome for us to be able to watch Detroit Red Wings hockey again on cable. So, all right, Matt, where are they now? Former Red Wings edition. Now, like I said previously in the episode, I actually can't remember if I said it in the first time or the second time of this recording, but we will be talking about former Detroit Red Wings players that were under the Ken Holland regime. Some of them may have played with or under Steve Yzerman when he entered as the general manager for the Detroit Red Wings. So, Matt, let's go ahead and jump into it. And this one I think is going to hurt some feelings a little bit. It's none other than you, because this guy is actually with your second favorite team, the New York Islanders, Dennis Cholowski.
Oh, God.
I knew you were going. 2016 20th overall pick, who signed with the Islanders this year on a 1-year, 2-way deal, $775,000 deal. And Matt, this guy, he was claimed by Seattle from Detroit in an expansion draft, July 21st, 2021. And then he was claimed off waivers by Washington from Seattle, October 14th, 2021. And then claimed off waivers again by Seattle from Washington, February 9th, 2022. And then signed by the Islanders, August 23rd, 2022. I think it was like a 1-year deal. So he then re-signed with the Islanders this year. So I guess I'll let you kind of speak on him a little bit, since now he's an Islander. But as a former Detroit Red Wing player, we had a lot of high hopes. This was a guy that we got in the draft when we could have had Jacob Chychrun, and we traded Pavel Datsyuk's contract to the Arizona Coyotes so they can select Jacob Chychrun, and we got Dennis Cholowski. This is a player that looked really good when we brought him up, and then to me personally, Matt, I feel like we didn't utilize him properly. But your thoughts on Dennis Cholowski? Is this someone that you could see in a spot with the Red Wings today? Let us know.
This guy doesn't even have a spot on the Islanders, Zach. I mean, he played like 2 games, not even last year, like 2 years ago. He played 2 games, scored 0 points. Yeah, I'm looking at his elite prospects now. 31 points in 68 games last season. So that's all in the AHL, of course. Really not that bad in the AHL, I guess. He's probably just going to be a regular there. Really is not going to play in the Islanders lineup unless there's like injuries to like 4 of their defensemen. Like there's no way he's going to get in the lineup. But yeah, it's just one of Holland's many mistakes, you know? Like you said it perfectly with the Datsuk trade when they got Chychrun. That was supposed to be our pick. I mean, it's just, I think that Cholowski, I do remember when he first came up and we first saw a few games from him, he actually looked pretty decent. And he looked like a guy that if he could get the proper development and they really could, you know, try and get the most out of him and give him the best chance to succeed, he actually could have been the player for us. But just given what he is now, he wouldn't even be on the Griffins on this team, to be completely honest with you. So it's nice that he found a spot here. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they re-signed him because he didn't really do much of consequence last year, but you know, maybe he'll break in for a few games. Who really knows?
Yeah, I mean, he's got NHL experience, right? So a depth player in case of injuries. And the Islanders, you know, Matt, they're an older team, you know, so anything is possible for him. So yeah, in terms of could he fit on the Detroit Red Wings right now? You said it the best. He can't even make the Islanders, no offense to them. I don't think he could make the Detroit Red Wings if he was still in the organization today. You know, you said what was the word you used? Mistake or failure? On Ken Holland's part for making the trade and selecting this player. I also want to add on to Tyler Wright. And then, you know, at that time, I can't remember who the head coach was, Matt. Maybe you remember, of the Grand Rapids Griffins at the time.
It wasn't Blashill, was it? Oh no, Blashill was the coach in Detroit. So it must have been Ben Simon. Must have been
Ben
him.
Simon. Yes, thank you. Yep. So there's a couple other players that we're going to name off that were in that similar situation too. And the development path that the Red Wings used to utilize for their prospects, it wasn't working. And it was very clear. And I think Steve Yzerman knew that right away, and he had to make those changes, and he did. And he got out and he went out there and got the people that he needed, like Chris Draper, you know, one of those players, former players, and those people to come in and get you the talent that you need and can see the overview of what the Red Wings can become in the future. And so unfortunately, Dennis Cholowski just isn't one of those players that fit that mold. I mean, there's a reason why he got claimed by Seattle, and there's a reason why he got claimed 4 times in 1 year, essentially. So
that guy hops around different. They got hops around different teams like I hop around different devices this morning.
Yeah. No kidding. That's a good.
That's literally what I did. Yeah,
that's pretty funny, Matt. Yeah, no. You know, I wish Dennis Cholowski the best of luck. I really wish that he did work out for the Detroit Red Wings. I was very excited when he did play for the Red Wings. I thought this was a player that was going to be good for us. It just didn't work out, unfortunately. But like I said, I think coaching staff didn't use him properly too. So Jeff Blashill also to blame, to put the name out there. But moving along, let's talk about another Ken Holland and Tyler Wright pick where you could have had Quinn Hughes in this draft, Matt, and that's Philip Zadina, who was a former Detroit Red Wings pick. He was a 6th overall pick.
You put together this segment just to torture me, honestly.
Pretty much. This
is a tough stroll down memory lane.
Yeah, it's the off season, so we're trying to switch it up a little bit. We talk about current Red Wings, so let's talk about the former ones, you know? So what happened with Philip Zadina? Well, he went to San Jose Sharks last year on a chance. He left money on the table when he had a contract with the Red Wings. They mutually terminated that contract so he could go there on a whim to say, I can be a better player than what the Red Wings currently utilize me as. And what he was going to be doing in Detroit, he did in San Jose. He did all right, but he played a bottom 6 role. He didn't take, you know, he didn't take the opportunity by the horns and ride the wave like he was supposed to, or the way that I think that he wanted to, you know. And yeah, like I said, he left a couple mil on the table, and he technically would still be on this team. But Matt, would there be a spot for him on this roster currently if he was?
To be completely honest, I think so. I mean, I don't really think they would have made so many free agent acquisitions last year if he was going to just stay with the contract that he has, because it kind of seemed to me that they were just going to have him play out the contract that he had and just hopefully see if he could develop it all. Like, kind of maybe in a similar way to Joe Veleno, but with Joe Veleno, he actually has shown that he can improve. So maybe not really the same thing. And obviously getting Joe Veleno, we didn't have as high of expectations for him as we did Zadina. Yeah, it's just always hard for me to talk about this guy. Like, we could have had Quinn Hughes, man. Every time I watch Quinn Hughes play, I'm just like, he was right there. He was right there, and he played in our backyard at U of M. It's so hard to talk about this, but
what's even harder though, Matt, is the fact that even if they didn't select Zadina, they weren't going to take Quinn Hughes. That's even the more frustrating part to me, at least, and that's a known fact. They weren't
you're
going
right.
to take
But
him.
I remember the other backups were like Noah Dobson and Evan Bouchard too, which like those two are incredible defensemen too. I mean, obviously I know how good not Bouchard, Dobson is on the Islanders. Like I love both those players. So man, anyone other than it's just I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. It's very depressing. But yeah, I think he probably still could have had a fourth line role on the Red Wings this year. You know, he was a guy that's I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about him. He definitely could have played on the fourth line, and you know he's a guy that was drafted, and Yzerman did everything he possibly could to work with him and help him develop and give him the best situation to play in that plays to his strengths and put him in the best position in the lineup. Like he really did give him a lot of chances, and I think Zadina just was unwilling to take all those chances, and ultimately wanted to bet on himself. Didn't really work out, but you know that's Zadina for you.
That is Zadina for you. I mean, I agree with you, though. I think that there would be a spot on the fourth line for him right now. I mean, especially if you didn't have a Jonathan Berggren, that would be the battle right now. It would be Zadina or Jonathan Berggren. Who do you give that fourth line spot to currently right now? And so I think that would be a very interesting battle to watch in training camp and going into preseason. So yeah, unfortunately, though, he's not here. You know, he still isn't signed with anyone, Matt, currently.
I don't think he's going to. I mean, you saw that he was on the worst team in the league last year and still wasn't good. I don't think he's going to play in the NHL again, to be honest.
Do you think that is partially the issue why he might not be signed right now? Is that he went and played with the worst team last year and really didn't do anything? Do you think he would actually be serviceable if he went to a competent team, like let's just say a mid team, like the Minnesota Wild, just to throw a team out there?
No, because he's not going to crack the lineup. I mean, that was the whole reason he even went to San Jose, is that was the team that was going to give him the most playing time. They had pretty much no NHL players on that team besides like Tomas Hertl and Vlasic and the corpse of Couture. I don't even know what the hell's going on with Couture. He hasn't played in like a year. Yeah, like they were literally just building an AHL lineup, and that was like the best way for him to get on a team, get a big role with a lot more minutes, a lot more ice time, and really kind of show what he can do. And he was unable to do anything. So no, if he can't even produce with the worst team in the league, he's not going to crack the lineup and even a middle of the pack team. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and I actually would agree with you on that. Yeah, so poor Phillips, well, once again, I wish no harm on him. I wish him the best of luck. And
I always wish him the best of luck. You know, we had high hopes for him, and I'm never going to like root against the guy. I'm always going to hope that he figures it out, can actually be the player, even half the player that he could have been, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, and it sucks that he wasn't. That's my opinion. Let us know what you think, if you miss Phil Zadina or not. But
yeah, that's your opinion because you have his jersey.
Matt, we're going to pin these two players together because they currently are now with the same team. Once again, former teammates for the Detroit Red Wings, and that is Tyler Bertuzzi and Andreas Athanasiou. The Greek god himself, George, our buddy from college, misses that sweet, sweet Greek man. But Tyler Bertuzzi just recently signed with the Chicago Blackhawks on a 4-year, $5.5 million deal to play with Athanasiou, Taylor Hall, Teuvo Teravainen, Connor Bedard, and another former Detroit Red Wing who actually isn't on this list, but now we're going to pin 3 players together. Peter Mrazek. I didn't write down what his contract is, but I know that he just signed a pretty good extension with them too, and that's what he's always wanted, was money, right? And being that number one guy, so good for him for doing that. But Tyler Bertuzzi, a player who was traded to the Boston Bruins for a first-round pick to the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings traded that to get Alex DeBrincat. To me, I think that's a good trade. That pick ended up getting traded 3 times. But then, yeah, to kind of talking about Athanasiou, that's a player that we traded away to the Edmonton Oilers for 2 second-round picks. We ended up trading both second-round picks. One of them was for, I actually have it posted up here. If you give me 1 second, we traded to select players Theodore Niederbacher and Sam Stange, if that's how you pronounce it properly. And then the Red Wings also traded that 2021 second round pick and a 4th round pick to the Golden Knights for the 36th overall pick in the second round of the 2021 draft to select Shai Buium. So a lot of trades happening here. And then obviously Peter Mrazek was traded too. I believe we ended up getting like a 3rd round pick from Philadelphia for him. I could look it up, but I think that pick never really ended up being anything. Prove me wrong, though. Put it in the comment section for me. Yeah, Matt, any of these 3 players, do you think that they would have a current spot on the Detroit Red Wings right now? I'll say Tyler Bertuzzi could.
Yeah, so I kind of want to correct you and add something. So we do have 3 former Red Wings on that team, but we also have 1 future Red Wing on that team, and his name is Connor Bedard.
That's a great correction to make. Thank you.
So I'm gonna say yes to Bertuzzi. I think he'd be a really decent 3rd liner for us.
Yeah,
like a really decent physical 3rd line winger. Maybe he's a guy that if we have like a Berggren, or let's say that like Mazer makes the team, or maybe Danielson makes the team and he's playing 3C or maybe on the wing, Bertuzzi would be a great guy to mentor someone like that, because he's a guy who won it all at the Grand Rapids level, and they won the Calder Cup when he was in Grand Rapids. He's a guy that has actually had championship success and has also played playoff games in the NHL. So I think he would have been a fantastic mentor for the young guys. And I mean, obviously we know like Dylan Larkin still loves the guy. Like that's still one of his good friends and
best friends.
If you injected Dylan Larkin with truth serum, or even if you just asked him, he'd be like, yeah, I really would love to play with Bertuzzi again. So, and I like him too. I know there's some people that think like, okay, well, he's gone. He doesn't want to come back. He would have came back in free agency if he wanted to come back. But I don't know. I would not shut the door on him coming back. I would really like to have him again, but probably not going to happen. But I would definitely like to see him as just like a physical 3rd line winger. I can't really say the same about Fantasy U. I honestly remember even when he was here. Do you remember that he like threatened to go to Russia because he didn't have like a contract with the team or something? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the whole Russia thing, but I do know that there were issues or problems, stances along, or I don't even know what word to use for this. There were stopgaps along trying to get contracts signed.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I think he waited like a couple days before the regular season, or he signed his contract a couple games after the regular season. Yeah, so
that also could have just been what Yzerman does, because that's just like the Yzerman style of negotiation, and I think that rubbed the Fantasy in the wrong way. I don't know if I can really blame him, but yeah, he's a guy that back in 2019-20, like we needed him. Like he actually really shined in that season, because who the hell else besides Larkin was going to do anything on that team? So I think he's kind of from bygone era of the Detroit Red Wings, where he wouldn't find the spot on this roster now, which is a good thing. That shows you how much the team has improved. But I don't know. I'd say no to him. But, Mrazek is an interesting one. I honestly, just looking at our tandem, it's hard to really say who I would replace him with. I can't really say Talbot, because, Talbot hasn't even played the game yet. I don't even know what we can actually see from him. But I don't know. I mean, like a Talbot Mrazek tandem or a Lyon Mrazek tandem, that doesn't sound that awful. Like I remember, like pretty recently when he was on Carolina, he was actually a really good goalie. Like he actually played really well on that team. And you've seen since then that the goalies they brought in haven't really done much of anything. So yeah, I think just being on Chicago, and I mean he's played times, I can't even call him the AHL defense. It's like ECHL with like couple college players mixed in. Like that defense is just absolutely terrible, minus Seth Jones. So I think
they got Korchinski too. They got
they do now, but I'm saying like 2 years ago they do now. But yeah, they got Korchinski. But yeah, I think the numbers that he's put up, you can't really blame it on him. He just gets shelled night in and night out, and it's been that way pretty much ever since he's been in Chicago. So I think it'd still be a decent option.
Yeah, I'll touch on Peter Mrazek. I think it would be interesting. I can't say for certain if there actually is a spot for him currently on this roster right now, maybe in replacement for Alex Lyon, But if you want to look at it from a contract perspective, you're definitely taking Alex Lang over Peter Mrazek currently. Even Tyler Bertuzzi, I mean, that contract, I mean, he got what he wanted. I think he wanted to get paid. There was a reason why he only signed a 1-year deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs, not only to get paid, but also to prove that he is a serviceable player. And so Chicago needed his services. You know, he's a very gritty player. He gets to go play with some amazing talent, like I mentioned, Taylor Hall and Connor Bedard. Even Teuvo Teravainen, who was a former Blackhawk once upon a time too. Athanasiou, I don't like that contract. 1 year by $4.25 million this season.
That's the contract? Wow, I didn't even know that. That's actually kind of terrible. I didn't even know
remember when the Red Wings had to sign players and they were slightly overpaid and,
yeah.
you know, you just had to do it just to have, you know, not saying that Athanasiou isn't a serviceable player, very fast, very exciting. Like I remember as when he was with the Detroit Red Wings, like that was a guy that was like getting you out of your seat every time he had the puck because of how quick he was. So he brings a lot of excitement. You know, if Bedard's not out there, you got AA. Here comes AA, AA batteries. Here he comes. You know, so really exciting player. I really liked him, you know, so, but yeah, Bertuzzi, I think he would be a great fit for the third line. I just don't like any of the contracts that these players have. So good for them for finding a spot with the Chicago Blackhawks team.
I would not be paying Bertuzzi what he's getting paid right now.
No.
But contract aside, I'd love him back on the team.
Let us know if you would pay Tyler Bertuzzi that money or any of these players if you would want them on the Detroit Red Wings current roster going into 2024. Matt, we got a couple more. Anthony Mantha signs a 1-year, $3.5 million contract with the Flames. He was traded to the Washington Capitals. We ended up getting Jacob Vrana in that trade, who actually didn't make this list. We don't have to talk about him. And then he was traded from Washington to the Vegas Golden Knights at the trade deadline. And then they were knocked out of the first round. Is this a player that you could see potentially fitting on the Detroit Red Wings roster right now?
So Mantha is interesting to me because I only think that he'd be able to play on this roster if he could ever figure out to be a two-dimensional player. Because, you know, he never really was that in Detroit. He was always a really good goal scorer, like pretty effective goal scorer. And for like the type of player that he is, like he's a pretty big guy. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4". Like he's a big dude. Like he's a built like a brick, you know what house. So but if he could ever figure out how to play defense, he'd definitely have a role on this team. Like imagine him playing like a bottom six role, scoring as much as he does, but he's an actual good two-way player who can kill penalties, can back check. I mean, you'd have a great player right there. That'd be a super effective player, but he just never really figured out that part of his game. And that's ultimately what led him to getting traded. And, you know, actually this year in Washington, he had a pretty decent season. I remember like the first or second year or whatever that was, I think it was the first year in Washington, they had a lot of buyer's remorse. I can tell you that much. Like he was really not playing up to what was advertised, but I think he kind of rounded it out a little bit this year. He was actually kind of like a sneaky good player for them. And you saw the return he got when they traded him to Vegas. So, you know, I wish him luck in Calgary. I think for a team like Calgary, just with what they are now, they seem to be sliding into a little bit of a rebuild, probably going to be like a bottom 10 team this year. I would imagine he probably has a pretty good role on that team. So maybe he can find that same spark he had in Detroit, and hopefully he can actually string some good games together and really find a home there.
Would you call me crazy if I said that there would be a spot for someone like Mantha at his current contract that he signed with the Flames that you could put him on the fourth line currently for the Detroit Red Wings?
I don't know if I could call you crazy because honestly, to me, he seems like just like a slightly, maybe even the same as like Daniel Sprong, maybe like a slightly worse version of Daniel Sprong. So I don't really know if you're necessarily crazy to say that, but I think with what Steve Yzerman is building in the bottom six is he really wants those players that are just a pain in the ass to play against. They're two-way players. Like look at the guys like Tyler Mott that they just signed. Like that's what that guy does. He kills penalties. He's an absolute prick to play against in the defensive zone. Doesn't really put up much offense, but that's not what he's there for. So I think that's the archetype that he's looking for. I think I'd still put him on the fourth line just for his goal scoring. Like he'd really just be another Sprong, to be honest. And Sprong fell out of favor there. So I don't think the current regime would want him there, but I would take a gamble on it with what he's getting paid.
Don't forget, that's a player that didn't he break his hand twice for fighting?
Yeah.
Or was it once? So that's a player that I would put on the fourth line just to be a bruiser and add some goal scoring. So that's another player that I could see if he still was with the Red Wings organization, him and Jonathan Berggren battling it out. So you talk about, players that can play on the PK, players that can play shutdown. Yeah, it's not exactly Mantha style, but he can score for you. It might be streaky, but he can at least tussle with the opponents for you too if the time ever comes that the bell rings. So that would be my reason for bringing him on. I do believe that there actually would be a spot for him, but there's a reason why he's not. Yzerman definitely has a mold and a style that he wants for the two bottom pairings on the forward end, the bottom six. So yeah, Matt, Gustav Nyquist, currently with the Nashville Predators and signed a 2-year, $3.185 million contract with them. This is a team that made a lot of noise this offseason, bringing in players like Steven Stamkos and a couple other names. So Gustav Nyquist, this is a player. Oh, let me pull it up. I got all my notes here. Yeah, we traded him to the San Jose Sharks back in 2019, February 25th, for a second-round pick in 2019 and a 2020 conditional third-round pick. Matt, this is a player that a lot of Red Wings fans loved. The goose is loose. Gus the Bus, right? I mean, this was a player that was really electrifying. I don't even know what word I want to use. Words are hard today. It's Sunday. When he played with Henrik Zetterberg, Pavel Datsyuk, and dare I say it, even Justin Abdelkader. I mean, that was, say all the bad things you want, but during those times, it was exciting for Red Wings fans. You had this player that was really unfamiliar to a lot of fans because the way that the Detroit Red Wings ended up developing their players, you had to be 26 just to make the roster. That was like a minimum for them. And when he came up, we're like, wow, imagine if we brought him up 4 years ago, how
for real
exciting it would have been, right? Seriously. But Matt, do you think that there would be a spot for Gustav Nyquist for the Detroit Red Wings on the 2024 roster right now, based on his contract and just how he is as a player?
Man, I am hammering the hell yes button. I want this guy back so badly. You don't understand how much I love this guy when he was playing, Zach. I mean, maybe you do because I've talked about him before, but it's not just me. He was a fan favorite in Detroit. I know so many people that miss him to this day. And watching him, like, he didn't ever produce like he did in Nashville last year. He had 75 points last year in Nashville. Like, that is crazy. Like, you don't see a guy who's, what is he now? Is he 33, 34? I just had it pulled up. He's 34 now. You don't see guys at the age of 34 having a career best year. So how this guy is just getting better with age, I don't understand how it's happening. Like, he's always like a consistent like mid 40s to mid 50s point guy in Detroit. And man, I mean, I talk about it a lot, but like, I feel like Jonathan Berggren, with the style of player that he is, I think he could be a really good Nyquist replacement. I really do. I think he has that same Nyquist mold where he plays with a lot of energy and he's such a good skater and just always finds the right place to be on the ice. He's not going to show up on the score sheet every night, but every night that you watch him, he's at least going to be doing something where you can say to yourself, oh yeah, I see why this guy's in the lineup. I totally get it. Like, he'll get into puck battles, he'll back check, he'll play along the boards, he plays physical game. Listen, if Nyquist has 0 fans, it means that I'm dead. Like, I absolutely love this guy. And yeah, I'd take him back in a heartbeat. I think he could still play in our top 6, even after what he did last year. I would absolutely take him back in a freaking heartbeat. So, yeah.
If the Red Wings didn't need goal scoring, and talking about this player, that's pretty much one of the reasons why they went out and got a Vladimir Tarasenko. If they didn't get him, I definitely could have said or seen myself saying like, wow, there's a Gustav Nyquist available. Granted, he wasn't, but if he was, I've been like, wow, that would be a really great player to put in the middle six for us because he back checks, he forechecks a little bit, he can score, he can pass. He kind of does it all. He was a really good player for the Red Wings, so I'm right there with you, Matt. I think out of all the players that we mentioned, and even continuing down the list, we're coming up to the end here, but I think this would probably be the one player at the top of the list that I would bring back, even over Tyler Bertuzzi. I think he brings a lot more, and he fits more of the mold of what Steve Yzerman currently wants on the roster. So I think he's the player that's most likely to fit currently on this roster right now, the way that it's constructed. Do you agree with me or disagree on that?
Yeah, I think I'd probably bring him back over Tyler Bertuzzi. I think the one thing Bertuzzi has going for him, like, even though he doesn't produce as much, he is still young and he is very physical. Like, I remember Nyquist being like physical, but not nearly to the sense of Tyler Bertuzzi, where that guy is just an absolute pest. He's the monkey on your back that you're trying to get off all game. But, you know, I do think I would bring Nyquist back over Bertuzzi. And maybe that's mostly just because of what he did last season. And I mean, if you're putting him in the top 6, he's probably going to play with Kane, maybe even Raymond sometimes. I mean, I don't really know what that would look like. Yeah. Playing with Comfer, like Comfer's a pretty good playmaking center. So I think that would be a really fun line to watch. If we had like a Kane, Comfer, Nyquist line, oh man, that'd be chef's kiss. That'd be beautiful. But that's not to say that I'm not excited for Tarasenko. I'm very excited to see what he can do. But yeah. I think if you were to bring Nyquist back, I don't think Tarasenko would have ever been an option to add to the roster. But that being said, I want to give Tarasenko his flowers. I do want to see what he can do this next season.
How excited do you think, though, Nyquist is to be playing with additional players like Steven Stamkos, and then they ended up getting, help me out, Matt, I keep on drawing a blank on some of the other players that they ended up adding, but
they got Marchessault.
Yeah, how exciting does that have to be for someone like Gustav Nyquist?
Oh, it's got to be awesome. I mean, yeah, dude, you don't have to talk to me. Like, I put my future bet on them to win the cup. Like, I'm all the way on the Predators bandwagon. Is that the best use of my money? Probably not, but I guess we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. They're loading up the guns to go on a big run.
Yeah,
I don't really know. I mean, I guess when you look at the team, like, they got Saros for whatever 7-8 more years. Like, their defense is still pretty decent. Like, Yossi's still there. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's the worst idea for them to just load up. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, you get like 3 or 4 years of a kick at the can, and you don't get there, you just rebuild.
That's
okay. That's they're in a position to do it, so why not?
Yeah, that's exactly what Barry Trotz is doing, dude. I mean, yeah, you signed Steven Stamkos for the 3 or 4 years that they got him for. Then you got Marchessault. Then you got UC Saros, like you said, and Roman Josi. Yeah, they got a window, so it's going to be great. So they're definitely one of the teams that I want to keep an eye on this season of watching them play and see how they actually do. Yeah, you're a crazy man for putting that future bet on them. That wouldn't be my first pick, but it could really work out for you in the long run. And I hope it does, as your friend.
I haven't really looked at the odds, but I'm pretty sure when I put it down, it's to win like $400. So
just remember when you win that bet, your friendship fee is due.
Oh, I know that.
Every time. And then, Matt, we got one more, or actually 2 more. We got 2 more players to go, so we'll kind of not really speed through them. But anyways, Thomas Tatar, another former Detroit Red Wing that I really loved. He recently just signed a 1-year deal, $1.8 million with the New Jersey Devils. So you get to play with Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, Dawson Mercer, maybe Alexander Holtz gets to go in there. Dougie Hamilton. There's a couple other players, right? And they just made a trade for some goaltenders, so they're in a pretty good situation. But Thomas Tatar, this was a player that we ended up trading away to. We traded him away to the Vegas Golden Knights for a 3rd-round pick in the 2021 draft, a 2nd-round pick in the 2019 draft, and the 2018 1st-round pick, which actually ended up being Joe Veleno, who is still currently with the Detroit Red Wings. And then, believe it or not, that's not going to be his last time being traded. He then got traded actually that same year in 2018, just the next season, from Vegas Golden Knights, where they acquired Max Pacioretty, and then the Montreal Canadiens got Tatar, Nick Suzuki, and a 2019 second round pick. That ended up working out pretty well for both teams. I mean, Vegas Golden Knights won a cup, and then Montreal, they got Nick Suzuki and Thomas Tatar in a second round pick. And then you got Thomas Tatar being traded from the Colorado Avalanche to the Seattle Kraken back last year in December, playing with the Seattle Kraken. But Matt, is there a spot currently, do you believe, for Thomas Tatar on this Detroit Red Wings lineup? Because I don't think so, just to make it short for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of Tatar too when he played here. I think at this point, with the player he is now, probably not. I don't think I put him on the team now, but you know, he's not far removed from having what was it, a 48-point season in 22-23 with the Devils. So I think his production is pretty much just slowed all the way down to where I don't think it's really worth bringing him onto the team. But he played for the Seattle Kraken this year. Oh, I just looked at that. I didn't even know he played for the Seattle. Okay,
he played with he signed with Colorado, and then like they didn't like what he was doing for them or something, and so they just kind of gave him away to Seattle for nothing, and then kind of did pretty good with Seattle. I was like, you guys just gave him away for free like that? That was pretty crazy.
I didn't know he played on that team. That's hilarious. I just looked at that. I was just wondering. I mean, if you told me he still plays for the Devils, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. So I had no idea he was playing for the Seattle Kraken. Yeah, no, and he was here. I really liked him, but I think it's different with Nyquist, where Nyquist is still producing. I mean, really playing better than he ever has. I don't think there's a fit for Tatar anymore, but still a fan of him.
If there was a fit for Thomas Tatar, I really loved his on ice energy, the way that like whenever he scored, he was just full of energy, really expressed himself on the ice, and I thought to myself that this is a player that probably could bring in a lot of leadership value to a team, or at least a younger team. That could be a reason why New Jersey went out and got him as a veteran presence, maybe somewhat of a leader in the locker room or out on the ice. But yeah, that's why I would bring Thomas Tatar back, but I don't think that there is a spot for him on this roster currently right now, the way that it is constructed. And I do not believe that he fits Yzerman's mold. He was a good player, but I think Gustav Nyquist definitely was on the better end of the player spectrum in terms of what they did on the ice. But both were awesome. I think we, as Red Wings fans in the past, we had high hopes and expectations that met. Believe it or not, I was one of them saying, is this our future Datsuk and Zetterberg right here? Even though neither of them played center or anything. But
yeah, I mean, one thing I will say about Tatar is every team he's played for, the fans love this guy. The fans absolutely love Thomas Tatar, and I was one of them that loved him in Detroit. So, yeah, best of luck to him. Who knows how much longer he's going to play? He's in his mid-30s now. I think is he 35? Oh, he's 33. Okay, he's actually younger than I thought he was. But
still got a couple more years in the can.
He's still got a couple more years. Yeah, he's still probably got like good 4 or 5 years. So we'll see.
Well, let's talk about a player who doesn't have any more years left in him, and that would be Justin Abdelkader, our former alternative captain, who hasn't played hockey in a year. His last time playing was in the Swiss League for the NL League in 22-23. He put up like 5 points or something like that, I think, during that time, but hasn't played since. Matt, safe to say there's top line, right? There's a spot on the top line for him.
Well, listen, man, I mean, as long as we're still paying him, we might as well have him on the team, right?
We are still paying him. So, yeah, talking about Justin Abdelkader, this is a player that Steve Yzerman, when he came in, bought him out in 2020, goes against the cap for 6 years. So we're technically still paying that. Let's see here, just to kind of break that down, it was $1.8 million in 2020-21, then 2.3 in 21-22. And 22-23, and then just over $1 million for the next 3 seasons here on out. So yeah, that's how much longer we're still paying on him. That's
God, Ken Holland. What the
hell speaks so much volume on how out of touch I would just say Ken Holland was at giving contracts. And mind you, Matt, I don't know if you remember, but that was also I think it was a couple of years before. But remember, even the Darren Helm signing, there were a couple other signings that Ken Holland was questionable on. Franz Nielsen as well. Ken Holland was really all about keeping players that you already had in the organization. He was very scared of going after players that he was unfamiliar with. I don't know why that was. And I'd be lying if I was sitting here and saying it to this camera I have right in front of my face. If I would be lying if I didn't say that I was not one of the people that wanted Justin Abdelkader to get an extension and get an 8 on his jersey, but not a contract like he ended up getting, So what was it? It was like 7 years for Matt. Can you help me out real quick? What was his contract that he ended up getting from Ken Holland?
Abdelkader?
Yeah.
I think it was like a 7 by like 5.5. I don't have Puckpedia up, so I can't really tell you. Here, let me see if I can type this in real quick. Bear with me 1 second. Abdelkader contract. It was a 7-year, $4.25 million contract.
$4.25 million, almost $30 million overall. That, like, Ken Holland, that, like, Matt, you can't tell me that there probably weren't other players out there in free agency that probably were doing the exact same things as Justin Abdelkader. But like I said, it goes back to the whole Ken Holland thing and saying players like Darren Helm and all these other names that he kept on for so long, that he was someone who was very scared to go out and get players that he was unfamiliar with and was just gambling and hoping that players like Justin Abdelkader would have worked out. But going back to the question, I guess, that we've been asking, Matt, is this a player that you could see being on the Red Wings right now?
Yeah, I guess I could see him sitting on the bench, passing around Gatorade and open the doors for players. I mean, I don't really know.
I'm actually quite shocked that he does not work for the organization in somewhat of a fashion.
Well, is he still playing hockey, or is he done now?
I think he's done, because there's no notes on Elite Prospects. There's no notes on anywhere. So I think he's done.
Well, okay. So I'm not really surprised that he's not working for the organization, because you see the former Red Wings that are working for us, and they're guys that played with Yzerman and won Stanley Cups with him. So I'm not really surprised, because that seems like Chris Draper, Nick Lidstrom, even Cronwall, like, I don't know. I'm not really surprised he's not working for him. Like, what would he do? What would he really do? I guess I could see him be a scout, maybe. But other than that, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly
Special advisor to the GM. He just, like, looks people up on Puckpedia and Elite Prospects. I don't know. Yeah. Something like that.
No. Well, Matt, that's it for the main topics. Let's go ahead and jump into the around the league news, and we'll just touch on these. We don't have to go too in depth, but we will actually talk a little in depth about this one. Actually, I lied. So Brock Faber signs an 8-year, $8.5 million contract with the Minnesota Wild. To me, I wrote on here at the time when it happened, I wrote, it's stupid of them to do. The more I gave it time, that was just an initial reaction for me. But thinking about it now, I mean, it's just a lot for them now. But over time, give it 2 years, it's going to be a fantastic deal. If the cap keeps on rising the way it's going, I think this is a great deal. But Matt, your overall thoughts about the deal, and then what does this mean for Moritz Seider? Brock Faber played 1 season. It was a really good season, but it was 1 season, and Moritz Seider is now going into his 4th season.
This means that Moritz Seider is going to be making Connor McDavid money, because, like, the market for defensemen, like, there's even one that we haven't touched on yet, who's probably even more inexperienced. The market for defensemen has just been absolutely asinine, and it's not even just like the restricted free agents getting signed; it's also the UFAs too. Like, we've seen, like, the Montour contract in Seattle, Brady Shea, and wherever he plays, I'm blanking on where he plays now, but he got a big deal. Even the Matt Roy contract in Washington, who is below those players in terms of skill. Like, teams are just, like, shooting money out of a cannon for these defensemen. Like, seriously, especially for the right-handed defenseman too. Like, Matt Roy's a right-handed defenseman, and man, I don't know, is Brock Faber left or right? I just have him in front of me. I'm going to pull him back up. He's right too. So there you go. I guess that's just what a right-handed defenseman is making now. It's just close to $9 million. So if anybody thought that Seider was going to be below $8 million, you can put that dream to rest right now. I struggle to think that he's going to make below $9 million. I really do. I mean, it's kind of on Yzerman for waiting this long, but we just don't know any of the details of what's going on, so I can't really even say it's on Yzerman. I really don't know. I mean, just the longer we wait and the more deals that come out, it's just going to be more ammo for Seider to get the most money possible, which, don't get me wrong, I want him to get his money. He deserves every dollar that he's going to get on his contract. It's just, how much is that going to handcuff us with future moves, you know? So I'm really starting to think, like, with this contract that was signed, I wouldn't be surprised if it's slightly over it. I would think maybe Seider hopefully would take like a team friendly deal, but if I were him, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know why you would. Like, just like you said, the cap's going up and the team does have the money to pay him, so I don't see why you wouldn't take it. But yeah, that's too much about Mo Seider. I think this contract, it's a gamble for sure. I mean, I remember when Cale Makar signed his contract, which now he's almost certainly underpaid. Like, even that was a gamble. This is kind of what teams are just doing now. Like, they're just, oh, Jake Sanderson. That's what I was trying to think of. Jake Sanderson did this exact deal last year with Ottawa. So this is just what teams are doing now. Like, they get a young, promising defenseman who has a fantastic season in the NHL, and they're basically just saying, like, you know what? We think that this is just, there's more to come. This is just the start, and we're going to pay you and lock you up, and just, you know, it's kind of just a big vote of confidence in him for the Minnesota Wild. So I don't really know if I guess maybe he's slightly overpaid. It's just a year of what he's done. But I mean, a guy like Brock Faber, like, he's only 21. Like, he's going to get better and better and better. So I think it's a fair gamble, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I know I said that. Yeah, I'm not even going to go into it, actually. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that this is going to work out very favorable for the Minnesota Wild. You look at someone like Moritz Seider. I think Moritz Seider is either going to get exactly what this is. However, Claude Lemieux easily can just go to Steve Yzerman and be like, well, you saw what Minnesota just gave to Brock Faber, someone who just only played one season. Yeah, he's good, but so is Mo Seider, who's now going into his fourth season. So we want a little bit more. We want anywhere from 9 to 10. I don't think that Moritz Seider is actually going. Well, Moritz Seider would love to have that. I think that's probably what Claude Lemieux is doing. Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond with their agents, you know, they don't talk directly to Steve Yzerman. That's all agent to general manager, right? The players are usually the ones left out, and they just hear, you know, whatever their agent wants to tell them, right? And so Claude Lemieux is definitely going to Moritz Seider and be like, go to Steve and ask for more, because you definitely can do that. I think he could. But it's really tough because I don't think Steve Yzerman wants to pay anyone more than Dylan Larkin. So this 8 by 8.5, I'm cool with that. If you're cool with that, let us know down in the comment section. Or if you disagree, also let us know in the comment section. But I do believe that this would be, if it happened right now, Matt, I believe that this is probably what we're looking at for Moritz Seider. Personally.
No, and I'm happy you brought up the Larkin contract, because I really think that is true, that like his contract sets the tone of the team. And it's like, this is our captain. He's far and away the best player. You see it year in and year out. And yeah, you're probably right about that. Like, honestly, I think the Lucas Raymond, even just Lucas Raymond alone, I think he deserves to be making $9 million plus. But if you want $9 million plus, it's going to come with a lot more responsibility and a lot more expectations. So that's where I land on that.
Yeah. And so moving along, Martin Necas signs 2-year deal with the Canes. Will make $3 million salary and a $3 million bonus this season, and $6 million salary and $1 million bonus next season for the 25-26 season. So $6.5 million is the AAV on that contract. All right. I think that's kind of a steal for the Canes, Matt. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a little surprised that it's only this much and it's just a bridge deal. Like, given the fact that he was in trade rumors for pretty much the entire offseason, I'm honestly surprised they didn't just trade him. I'm surprised he re-signed, but you know, good for them. He's a pretty useful player. Like, really a guy that when he was in rumors, someone that I wanted the Red Wings to really go after guns blazing, but it didn't happen. So whatever.
Yeah. Would be really cool to see the Red Wings get a Martin Necas, though. Canadians getting work done. They signed Caden Gooley to a 6-year, $5.55 million deal. This is another player who has one season, if even a full season of NHL experience. The Canadians and a lot of these other teams, Matt, they're kind of just with the cap going up and the flat cap. And I guess this is where it's hard for fans to differentiate a little bit. I think we got so used to the flat cap era, thus meaning the COVID era where cap wasn't going up. And then even before then, cap was only going up by little by little, like $1 million here, or maybe $1.2 million there. Now we're seeing it potentially going up $4 to $6 million each year. So teams definitely are just saying, well, this contract, this $5.5 million. I joked about this with with Carlo and Ryan Hanna or someone. I can't remember actually which episode it was, but anyways, that could potentially be the league minimum at one point. Who knows? Not, obviously just spitballing. That's probably not going to be the case, but this is what GMs are trying to do. They're trying to see, yes, this might be a little high right now, but in a year or two, it'll be a steal. That's what GMs are hoping for. So, I don't know. Good contract for the Montreal Canadiens, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I don't really see it. Like, to me, just looking at his numbers, obviously I'm not a Canadiens fan. Like, if there's any Canadiens fans listening, which there probably isn't, they know more than I do, and you and I, so... Just looking at his point total, I mean, across 2 seasons, he's played over 100 games. He didn't even get Brock Faber's point total in 1 season. So I don't really know what there is here with this guy. I mean, he's not even a right D, which we were talking about. They're getting the big money, and he's not a right D. So I don't know. I mean, this seems like a little more of a gamble than the other contracts we talked about, but Montreal's a young team. They're rebuilding. It's not like this contract is going to handcuff them in their cup window. Their cup window is probably not open for another 5 seasons, maybe even more. So I don't know. I guess if you're going to get a contract done now, this is the time to do it. So whatever.
Montreal's a really young team. They definitely like to hand out these long-term deals to young players. I mean, you look at Cole Caulfield is a good example of one too. They did it with him too. So they're a team that likes to lock up their young players for a long time. So let's see if it works out for them. All right, well, that's it for the player signings and everything. But Matt, Canes retired number 12, Eric Stahl. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. Won a cup with them.
Good for him.
So, yeah, and he was a captain for them for a really long time, right? I get the Stahl brothers mixed up all the time, except for Mark Stahl, that ginger guy.
So, yeah, it was Eric Stahl, and now it's his brother Jordan Stahl. I think he's now the captain.
Jordan. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Is Jordan still the captain? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure he's still a captain, yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations to Eric Stahl, nonetheless. I think that's really cool. So his number will be up in the rafters, and no one will ever be able to wear number 12 for the Canes ever again. So, Matt, the Jeff Merrick situation. Yeah, Jeff Merrick steps away and just kind of talking about it. And Matt, you're someone who brings this up. You brought it up with the NFL. I think it was last year with the whole JMO situation. And so it's kind of similar with the NHL now. So Merrick had come under scrutiny from the NHL during the first round of the draft for allegedly revealing to a friend which players' teams were drafting moments before those picks were publicly announced. According to the league and media industry sources, the NHL shared concerns about the situation with the Nevada Gaming Control Board, which probed further. So he really technically didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. This is something that every insider does. I don't really understand why this is a problem.
It's just one of those things where a sports league partners with a gambling association and has these weird gray areas with
honestly
rules.
Yeah. So you bringing that up, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because the Nevada Sports Commission is way more strict than all the others, just given the fact that they're in Vegas, right? They have to be super strict because you can't have inside information like that affecting the odds of all the odds makers in Vegas. So even though he didn't technically do anything wrong in the eyes of us as the fans, and really, I guess even the NHL, because every insider does this, he kind of seems like it pissed off the gambling commission, which, that's they're above the police force in Vegas, dude. They run things in Vegas. So yeah, that's not an organization you're putting on the bad side of. So that, it's unfortunate.
A lot of people are pissed off about Sportsnet too.
Yeah.
So, and rightfully so. Jeff Merrick was a big name in hockey around the globe, pretty much, at least to me. That's what I think about
to
Jeff
me.
Merrick.
This is just Sportsnet trying to do damage control because they don't want to risk the relationship with Vegas because they want to keep doing future business with Vegas. I mean, you saw how successful the Sphere was. Like, that was one of the best drafts I've ever seen in my entire life. It was so cool. Imagine that the NHL and Sportsnet ruined the relationship of Vegas so badly that they can never go there again. That's not good.
That's a fair point. Yeah, and we know that they probably won't do any more in-person drafts again, but I hope that they continue doing them at the Sphere because I would agree with you. That was probably the coolest draft day that they've ever had or draft location that they've ever had by far. And I went to the one in Nashville in 2023 for Connor Bedard, and that was pretty cool. So, all right, Matt, last piece that we have here. What if I told you that was a 16-year-old that was 6'11", 251 pounds that was committed to going to play at Penn State?
I would ask you if he's going to play basketball there.
No, he's going to play hockey because Penn State has received a commitment from Russian 2008-born forward Alexander Karmenov. The kid is 6'11", 251 pounds at 16 years old. Oh, I said forward. My bad. He actually plays defense and shoots left. My apologies. He will, or maybe he can play forward. I don't know. We'll have to find out and see.
Imagine that guy flying down there on the wing. Everyone's stepping out of the way. They're like, go ahead, dude.
He's bigger than Elmer Soderblom, dude.
He's bigger than Zdeno Chara, bro.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's 16 years old. That means he's still going to keep growing, dude. You don't stop growing at 16.
No, and 16-year-olds usually, I think I was maybe 5. I mean, I'm 5'8" right now, so I'm a shorty.
I was probably 5'4" or 5'5" when I was 16. And that means I shot up 3 more inches. Yeah.
So he will play in the Atlantic Youth Hockey League this year for the U16 team, for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights U16 team as well. So he will be playing in North America, actually this upcoming season, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Russian 2008 born player Alexander Karmenov. If you don't believe me, this is a real player. Go look up his name on Twitter. You can go find some little bit of not highlights, but clips of him just hanging out with and playing against other 15 and maybe 14-year-olds and just being a foot and a half taller than they are. It's pretty insane. So it's like Zdeno Chara versus Brendan Smith, Matt, if you remember that. So
yeah, seriously.
Matt, that's it. That's all we got. So good work, buddy. You got anything before
I live to serve? Any final thoughts?
Before final thoughts, I guess, or you can go ahead and jump into final thoughts if you want right now.
My final thoughts are: if anyone out there has a laptop that is brand new and they've never used it, please send it to me. I can pay you, or you can donate to me. It's totally fine. But yeah, I need a new laptop, so that's it.
If anyone is good with computers, Matt actually needs one custom built. He doesn't need one that's just in a box ready to go, like a Lenovo or anything. Please help me. Help him understand that. But good final thoughts, Matt. My final thoughts are, let's go Red Wings. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for returning and thanks for joining. If you are new, if you're watching us on Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button, like this video, do whatever you got to do. And then obviously we are on Apple Podcasts just recently, actually. So not obviously, but anyways, I'm just kind of spitballing now at this point, but go ahead and give us a like and follow us on there too. Don't forget to enter our giveaway where 3 lucky winners are selected to get a Hockeytown rundown hat. You can get the trucker cap or the flat brim hat. And then you can also check out all of our other merchandise on our store, which is on our Linktree link, which is posted on all of our socials. So you can go ahead and check that out there. And I'm just going to leave this on the table because I don't know how many people actually stick around until the end of the episodes. But actually, you know what? I'm going to save it. But once we get to 500 subscribers, we will be doing another giveaway. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I'll leave it for food for thought on the table. And so those are my final thoughts. And until next time, we'll see y'all on the next one. I'm breaking my own stuff. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.